Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios here in Cumming, Georgia, it's time for Stewarding Family Wealth. And now, here's your host.
Good afternoon. This is Randy Brunson with Centurion Advisory Group on this episode of Stewarding Family Wealth. If you would like to learn more about our firm, you can go to centurionag.com or just look us up online. We're easy to find. That aside, we are in the studio today with Melissa Libby of Melissa Libby Associates. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely glad to do that. Would like to do a couple of episodes, and you and I have known each other for several years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember so many conversations over the years, but I thought in the first episode, tell your personal story. You've grown up in Georgia for the most part, but love to hear your personal story, your trip through UGA, starting MLA, some of those kind of things. So we were talking just before we went on the air, and you were talking about finding the home that you grew up in LaGrange for sale. So your family moved to LaGrange when you were young, as I recall, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My family moved to LaGrange when I was 3 years old. So
3?
Yes.
Okay. So that's home for you.
Absolutely. I was there until I was a senior in high school, and then we moved to Richmond, Virginia, which was the big city to me at that time.
Yes. So you graduated from high school in Richmond?
I did. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I haven't talked a lot about that. So I knew LaGrange, there's the family was there in LaGrange, but so your dad took a transfer job,
yes, exactly.
Change or something. And so you graduated. Now, how was that? Because, you hear these stories about children who move those last 1 or 2 years of high school, and sometimes it works, so many times it's traumatic. So what was that like for you?
It was great. I already had a big city mentality in my little hometown of LaGrange, so I couldn't wait to get out of LaGrange anyway.
Sure.
And my parents had another family that said I could live with them that last year, after they moved, if I wanted to stay in LaGrange. And I was like, no, I want to be with my family, and I want to go live somewhere different. And it worked out great. I made new friends that are lifelong friends to this day, and it was really a great experience. I'm super glad I did it.
That's good. I mean, you've always been just impressed me as being very resilient, mentally and emotionally resilient, and that's. I don't know what drives that from one individual to the next. Some are, some aren't, but you've always impressed me as being like that. So, but then you came back to UGA, though.
I did, and I have to say, I was very excited about coming back. Coming back to the South, even though people in Richmond think they live in the South. I learned that too. But yes, I'd got early admission to Georgia, so I already knew that's where I was coming, and it was really, really fun to come back home and spend 4 fabulous years in Athens.
I was going to say, Athens is one of those cities. You probably have friends, like people we've met across the years, that they went to Athens to go to school, and they're still there.
For sure. Yeah. And I get it. I don't blame them. And especially now, Athens is really a great place with great restaurants and things to do. And I'm sure the houses are expensive. I don't know, but I wouldn't mind living there. That's for sure.
It's a nice little city. And help me out here. You probably know this better than I do, but over the years there have been 2 or 3 just really good bands that have come out of Athens.
That's right. That's right.
There's REM, and then what's the other one? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
I know, but, a lot of good ones though. It always ages me when I tell people that REM played a free concert at Legion Field in Atlanta when I was there. I mean, in Athens when I was there, and they're like, "What?"
Exactly. They were just getting started.
Oh, the B-52s. That's the other good.
That's
one.
right.
Just came to
that's
me.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. So there've been several. So it's just a classic. Classic college town. That's its nickname, right? It's Classic City.
Classic City.
But,
that's right.
Anyway, but over the years, though, you've been involved. Now, you graduated from the Grady School of Journalism.
Correct.
And for those who might be listening that don't know, the Grady School of Journalism was named after who?
Henry Grady.
Right, who was for years back, early part of the 20th century, was the editor or publisher of the Atlanta Journal.
Yep, exactly.
Right, just
exactly
a very well known and very well thought of.
And his, I believe it's his grandson is currently on the board with me at the journalism school. So, they continue. He He's in a different business, though, but he continues to be involved with the school. Yeah.
Right. Good. So you graduated from the School of Journalism, and now, like you said, you've come back and you serve on the board of the School of Journalism, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you've done that over the years. I mean, you've served and volunteered just in different ways, and you've been on the Grady board for a while, and then you also served on the board of Georgia Organics.
That's right. Over the years, I've served on boards either for a professional reason or a personal reason. And so Georgia Organics is a good example of a professional reason. It was, important to my clients who are restaurants. And it was interesting to me personally to learn more about the organic world, the world of organics. And then I have like really personal ones like Adopt a Golden Atlanta that I was on the board for many, many years because I believe in rescuing animals and I happen to love golden retrievers in particular. But I learned, I just over the past few years, I got on too many boards and it was taking up a lot of time and I wasn't really, giving anybody my all. So I got off of all the boards that I was on and now I'm like trickling back in. So yes, I'm on the Grady board again. After a little bit of a hiatus, and I'm volunteering for Adopt a Golden, but I'm not on their board, and I would say no if they asked me.
So that brings up a good question because I think one time in the 90s I was having a discussion with Teresa, just one of those, how do you have a life in all this,
right?
Because we had children at home at that time and so on and so forth, and I was on like 5 or 6 boards, and you end up with your eyes spinning around your head just with all the things on your list.
Right.
Like, it doesn't work. So, but how do you decide that? Because like right now, for a long time I was on 2 boards. I've rolled off of one. And that was intentionally. I've been on there for way too many years. Because really a board needs a rotation.
It should.
Yeah, they need fresh thoughts and fresh people and so on and so forth. So I'm on one right now. But how did you decide that? Have you come up with an internal limit? I'll serve on 2 boards, but I need to limit myself to that? Or
that's what I said I was going to do. I said I was going to, think of the causes that meant the most to me or the situations. Like I thought about my neighborhood and maybe it would be good to be involved in a board or, committee or whatever. Yeah. But once I was off all the boards, I was like, oh, this feels so good. So when somebody calls me to be on their board now, I just politely decline the board position, but offer to do something else for them. Well, could I help you in this way? Can I chair your PR committee, or can I, write a press release about your event, or, do this or do that? And what I found, and I don't know about the boards that you're on, the boards that I was on in the past, it was a lot of meetings, but not a lot of getting things done. And that drives me crazy. So I would rather do stuff for somebody than sit in a meeting 5 times a year for, 4 hours and a once a year, retreat. That's just not, I'm not productive that way. I don't think I'm giving my best that way. Yeah. So now when I say I really don't want to be on the board, I'll do that for anybody that says, will you help us with thus and so? I go, if I don't have to go to any meetings, I will. Because that's the part I hate.
It is.
I think I just realized it and said, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, the one board I'm on over this last weekend, between Friday and Saturday, it was an annual event, but it was 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
And it was valuable. Somebody came in to do some board training, which was valuable. Yeah. Those kinds of things. But fortunately, this particular organization, there are about 30 or 40 employees. It's nonprofit medical where they provide services to those who really don't have the financial capacity to pay for services. And we have just an outstanding executive director who runs the organization, so the board is able to function as a board, and we only meet 4 times a year. But that's one thing I look for, whether it's organizations we support financially, or where we have opportunity to volunteer in other ways, or serve on the board, and it's like, not, there are a lot of people that can do that, but that's what I look for. Is this a well-run organization? Do they know what they're doing? Have they thought about the organization? Or is this just one person with an idea that wants some of their friends to come along and help them figure it out? So that may sound harsh, but
Yeah, and I think there are people that would love to be on a board like that, like you described. You know, like it doesn't. It's just not for you. It's just not for me. Like some of the boards that I've been on in the past, like I said, they just didn't move fast enough for me.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that anything was wrong. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And it took me a while, but I finally figured it out. So.
That's very well put. You're right. I've got my own internal filter, probably like you do. Okay, what's a good fit for me in terms of board service? And I've got 2 or 3 things I look for. Okay, yeah, this could be a good fit, right? So yeah, adopt a golden. Tell me about golden retrievers.
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't think we have enough time here. No, all animals are, helpless. They need us. Yeah. And so I guess my big picture comment would be, please, if you're looking for an animal, check out, a rescue organization. And then Adopt a Golden is such a well-run organization, completely volunteer. It's the largest golden retriever rescue in the Southeast and like the 3rd or 4th in the U.S. I mean, we rescue dogs from Turkey and China. And
really?
Yeah, we do. They even have their little passports and everything when they come over. But it's just so rewarding to see these dogs. Currently, I'm a foster parent. That's what I've been doing most recently for them. And to see a dog come in that's, just wounded in some way, usually emotionally, every now and then, they've been abused in some way. And to watch them see what it's like to have a dog bed and live in a house and go out in the yard and play. And they just are so resilient and so brave. And it just really warms your heart. It really does. Yeah. I love them.
And I know you've fostered many Goldens over the years. And then you had Rafer, right?
Yes, Rafer was he was a foster fail. They call it a foster fail when you keep the dog that you're fostering.
It's a foster fail, so you didn't go anywhere.
You failed as a foster because you adopted him yourself. But yeah.
What was he, 14 or 15 years old?
No, he was 9.
Okay.
He got cancer. Norma Jean was my first foster fail also. I'm making a bad case for myself here. But she was 8 years old when I got her, and she came from Cartersville, Georgia, and somebody just dropped her off and said, we don't want her anymore.
Oh, my goodness.
I know, and she was just the greatest dog. I just can't imagine why somebody did that. But anyway, she lived to be 14, so I had 6 really good years with her. And I will put a plug in for the senior dogs because they're the best. You already know, their personalities. You know what they're like when you meet them, so it's not like a puppy. You have no idea what it's going to become.
Right.
They're, usually a little bit easier to manage, lower energy, just great companions. And we at Adopt a Golden, we have, I won't be able to quote the number, but we give a discount on the adoption fee if a senior person adopts a senior dog. So that's always something good. And people always think, oh, golden retrievers are so big. That's not good for an older person. But let me tell you, an older golden, that's like having a little Chihuahua or something. They just want to be by your side. They're not going to pull you when they're walking. They're just as easy as any other dog. They really are. And they don't need, they always say, oh, they need so much space. They don't, because they call them Velcro dogs. They're right up on you. Yeah.
Tell me I don't recall the name of your current golden.
His name is Earl.
Earl.
Yes.
Okay. I'd forgotten. But now you got Earl as a puppy, right? Was he just very young?
Yes, he was 8 weeks old. I don't recommend puppies. I still have PTSD, and he's 3 years old. But we do have a lot of puppies at Adopt a Golden. I currently am fostering a breeder dog who had 9 puppies. So here we have, and she had we picked up 2 breeder dogs. They both ended up being pregnant. So we had 18 puppies born into our rescue. So if you do want a puppy, Adopt a Golden or, whomever else you're checking, they very likely could have a puppy. So it's not like you're not going to get a puppy unless you buy one. You can find them for rescue as well.
Yeah. So your encouragement for those that want a dog, that are looking to have a dog as a pet, go to the rescue organizations, go to Adopt a Golden, go to the other rescue organizations and take in some of these dogs who've just been left on their own or abandoned or whatever.
Right, and if there's a breed that you like, there's probably a rescue for that breed.
changing subjects.
Yes.
So you come out of UGA. So what's next after UGA? Because I know you made some. You're one of those people who have just. You're talking about lifelong friends from high school. You're one of those people who have stayed in touch with friends over the years, just for a long time, and you've made some lifelong friends. But out of UGA, tell me what happens. Where'd you go from there?
My first job?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I went to the Hyatt Regency Atlanta in downtown Atlanta, and I was the public relations assistant, and I typed on a typewriter, and and it was an eye-opening job. It was, a humongous, I think it's 1,000-room hotel, 3 different buildings, and I just fell in love with the hospitality industry at that job. It was hard, but I fell in love with it. I really did.
Yeah, an old Selectric typewriter probably.
Probably. Right? I just remember it had that little correction thing on it, that correction ball on it, which was awesome. You just backspace, and then you got your little correction.
Yeah. But you took your degree though in public relations or journalism, or
it's a journalism degree with a public relations major, and I am still in that industry today.
You are, yes, because you went to the Hyatt Regency, and then I would have to go back and look. But you and I met in 91, 2, 3, sometime in there 30 years ago?
Yes.
In that range?
Before I started my business, I think we met. Right when I was at Swiss Hotel, I was getting ready to do it.
And we met, it wasn't Hotel Nico, it was
Swiss Hotel.
Swiss Hotel.
Yeah.
Is the property still there?
It's still there, but it's a Westin now by Lenox Mall.
Okay. All right, because it's on an out, the way I describe it, it's on an out parcel of Lenox Mall there.
Correct.
on Peachtree.
Yes.
Just on the same side of the street as Lenox Mall. And
yes.
That's where
and I remember the time frame meeting you, because I had a Rich's credit card and I had a Macy's credit card, and you're like, no, we got to stop this. That was one of the first things you had me do, was pay off those 2 department store cards of mine.
That's so interesting, because I'm not convinced that I know as much as people give me credit for. I think it's just it's these basics of being really careful with debt.
Yep.
But you've always done that. I remember we were sitting there in the lobby of that hotel, and all right. So first of all, tell us about Melissa Libby and Associates. Describe what you do, where your focus is as a firm. Just tell us a little bit about that.
So we do, in a nutshell, we promote restaurants, and that can be through the media, through social media, through community events, just getting the word out, whether it's an opening of a restaurant, whether it's a new chef, a new menu, just, what's going on at the restaurant so that you want to go and eat there. Yeah.
And here, I don't know, sometime in the last year, you and I were talking, and I don't suppose I'd ever ask you why you decided to focus on restaurants, but I do remember because you said that you started MLA 30 years ago this September, so
Correct.
You're right at 30 years.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. What caused you to consider going out on your own?
I always wanted to have my own business, and I even had made up some business cards and had a couple of clients on the side, but I was too scared to, really do it. And then Swiss Hotel did me the favor of laying me off. Yeah. And I said, wow, I guess maybe. But I was really still too scared. So I kept getting part-time jobs, and I kept interviewing for other jobs, all the while sort of gathering clients. And then people would offer me a job, and I would say no. You know what? I got to make a decision here. So I just went for it. And I did not expect to focus on restaurants. It was 1992. There weren't even that many restaurants in Atlanta that could have a PR person. But all I knew was the hospitality business, because I had been in the hotel business for 7 years. And so those were the leads I started getting. And so all my clients had some sort of hospitality focus for the most part. And then as it got closer to 1996 and the Olympics coming to Atlanta, more restaurants came to Atlanta. Atlanta became more of a spotlight for hospitality and restaurants. And it, kind of took off from there.
this has just been in the last year or so. You and I were having this conversation, but as I recall, there was some specific conversation, event, experience you had that sort of said, you know what, and maybe it was tied to the Olympics, but I need to focus on restaurants. Do you?
Yes, it was a very specific moment when I decided to focus on restaurants. I know what you're talking about. So I had a restaurant called Uncle Julio's that was my client on Peachtree Street near Collier Road. And I also represented Canoe Restaurant that is over in Vinings. And so the people that own Canoe were going to open Ted's Montana. Well, at the time it was called Fishbone, and then it became Ted's Montana Grill. It literally shared a driveway with Uncle Julio's. And so I said to George McCarrow, one of the owners of Canoe and that restaurant Fishbone, I said, hey, if you want me to let Uncle Julio's go as a client, I will, since I'm already working with y'all on Canoe, and I'm happy to do that. And he was like, well, no, as far as I'm concerned, the person that has the most restaurants is the one that has the most power. So I want you to have as many restaurants as you can get. And that was a huge light bulb. And to this day, when people say a prospective client will say, well, how do I know, you've got so many restaurants, how am I going to get your attention? And it's like because we have so many restaurants is why we get, people take our calls, people ask us for things, it's because we have a lot of restaurants.
Yes.
So that was my moment, George McCarrow.
And that's very well put. You are the resource. Melissa Libby Associates, you and your team are the resource in Atlanta if a restaurant wants to connect with the media. And so that's okay. So that's the way that happened. Okay,
that's how it happened. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
I always give George credit. He's a very smart man.
Yeah, I remember that story. And what I remember as you were, it must have been the summer or fall of '72 or '92.
Not 72.
Sorry.
Please,
that was a different.
I'm old, but not that old.
That was a different. No, I'm that old. No, that was the year I met my wife. We were in high school.
Okay.
But yeah, in the summer of '92, we were sitting there in the hotel lobby, and you were going back and forth mentally. Okay, can I do this or whatever? And I remember encouraging you, which I'm just thrilled that I did. But you had two clients or something, right?
Yes.
2 clients, and there's always that struggle when you just have a couple of clients. Is okay, can I get paid and still have enough money to make rent or make my house payment and buy groceries? And so how long did it take you, based on what you just shared? But how long did it take you from a business startup standpoint to reach the point that you were unemployable? And what I mean by that is for me, it took about at least 2 years and maybe closer to 5. Where you go back and forth internally. Okay, is this actually going to work, or do I need to go get a real job? That kind of thing.
Well, it only took me 3 months to replace the salary that I was making at Swiss Hotel. So that was a big thing to me was, do I have enough money to do this?
Right.
And really it took off really fast. I think the question for me, and what I say to people when they're thinking about starting a business and asking for advice, I always tell them to plan for success, because all I did was plan for failure. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go get a job here. If this doesn't work, I'm going to do this. This is when I'm going to decide that this isn't working. I spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Right.
And I didn't spend 1 minute thinking about what happens if I'm so busy that I need another person to help me. What happens if I'm so busy that I need an office? None of that. And so I, for a very long time, worked pretty much by myself and did everything by myself. And that about did me in. So it was about 4 or 5 years of that before I really became a true business and started thinking like one.
Right. Yep. No. I understand. I understand completely.
I'm sure.
I understand.
Probably a lot of people understand that.
I think it's a very common experience, because I'm like you in January '91. I think. Yeah. Layoff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was that motivation.
It was that year. Yeah, that was a bad time. Yeah.
Because before that, I want to start the business, but then you look at the little corporate cocoon, and you've got the salary and the benefits, and they throw a bonus your way once in a while, a little, those kind of things. And it's like that little cocoon is just slightly better than the aggravation of being in that thing. And yeah, with the layoffs, like, well, nothing to lose. But I knew that at the time that the children were 8 and 10 years old. And it's like, somebody's going to generate some cash flow.
Right.
I'm going to have skinny kids.
Right.
And so there was that thing. But yeah, that was my experience. Is I probably spent too much time trying to avoid failure and not enough time planning for success. Does
right.
that
I mean,
make
you
sense?
think about these startups today that you hear about, they get millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they haven't, made a profit or anything. And it's like, oh my gosh, I would have never dreamed of such. I'm not even sure that's a good idea, but it happens.
That wasn't my experience at all. That wasn't. No. Now I want to talk more about, because you've been at this 30 years now.
Yes.
And I want to talk more about your experience in business. Talk more about sort of what you're fascinated by, what you've seen in the Atlanta restaurant scene over the last 30 years. You referenced the Olympics and how that changed and so on and so forth. And I want to learn more about what you've learned just in business in general. However, we are probably 20 to 25 minutes into this conversation, so let's do this. Let's wrap up this episode. Those of you that are listening, there will be another one that drops in a couple of weeks after this, and you can find this on wherever it is you pull your podcast down. I know the 3 big ones are what? iHeartRadio, Spotify, and somebody else. You
Apple.
guys, there you go. Okay, I still have a mechanical pencil. So, that I use. Anyway, enough for this episode. Melissa, thank you for joining us. We'll come right back in just a minute with the next episode. But thank you for joining us here on this episode of Stewarding Family Wealth. And thanks again to Forsyth Business RadioX and the wonderful host Amanda Pierce for making this happen.